Welcome to the show. I am extremely excited to have special guest Joey Yochheim on the show. Joey, welcome to the show.
Appreciate you having me, Jeff. Looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to get right into your hidden edge. If you would share that with the audience, and then I'd love some backstory. Like, how did you figure out that this was a good thing? How did you figure out it was your edge? And then we'll unpack it a little bit.
Man, I'd say the hidden edge for me has always been this naturally obsessive personality, right?
Okay.
I'm somebody that when I find something that I'm passionate about, something that I sense that I have an inkling of skill for, I go all in. Right? I've never been somebody that's half-assed really anything in my life. And that has been the thing that I think has been a massive separator for me with every endeavor that I've gone on.
Okay. So obviously it must have occurred probably younger in life. So can
Yeah.
you share like one or two examples where
Mhm.
hey, you just went all in, burned the
100%.
boats, and were obsessive about it?
100%. And for me, it was I grew up playing soccer, right? So I grew
Okay.
up playing soccer. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and I was getting into it probably when I was around 5 or 6. And instantly, anybody that's played any kind of like club sports or has kids that have played club sports, you quickly find that route. And for me, I found that route about 2 years later. I was about 7 years old when I started playing club soccer. And it was something that when I saw the opportunity, I started to be able to conceptualize where I can go with it. And for me, the first thing on my mind was I want to go play sports in college.
Okay.
And once I realized that was a possibility, I was probably 10, 11, 12 when I started to realize that I could go and do that. That's when it clicked for me with the obsessiveness. Right? I had a coach. He's from Romania. His name was Emil Haitonic. Still know this guy's name. He's amazing. I don't know what he's up to now. I haven't talked to him in years.
Gotcha.
But he told me when I was about 12 years old, he was like, if you want to do this the way that you want to do it, you have to touch that ball every day.
Hmm.
Nothing else has to matter. He's like, that is how you have to wire your brain. And I remember going home, and I have such a vivid memory of this. I literally went home and I printed out a calendar, like just a blank piece of paper with 30 days on it. And I wrote down every day what I was going to do with the ball. I was like, today I'm going to do passing. Tomorrow I'm going to dribble. Tomorrow I'm going to do this. And for 30 days out of the month, I had something to do with the ball there. And I just kept that mentality with my sport, with soccer, literally until I got to college.
Okay.
And then when I got to college, I ended up playing Division III. In Division III, a lot of kids like to, slack off a bit and kind of take the off season light. I was still doing that.
Okay.
So it never left. And so I remember that being like a turning point for me. And that was the first time I realized like this obsessive mentality is going to serve me well in the rest of my life. And I've seen it transpire with business as well.
Yeah. And I love just that mindset, right? That one, you had a mentor, you had a coach, you had a guide that is like, hey, here's the path for you to get there.
Yep.
And then you jumped all in. You didn't question whether he knew what he was saying at the time. You said, all right, that's the path. And then you saw it to fruition as you went through. Were there times, I'm sure there were, during that from 10 to 12 up to college where you had like just doubt, self-doubt, questions in your mind, those days that you don't necessarily want to do it, but you continue on? What were maybe a couple examples of that to just shed some light for the audience?
I think the biggest one for me that was hard actually happened a little later on, because after I committed. So I ended up playing at John Carroll University in Cleveland, Ohio, and I committed. It was the beginning of my senior year of high school, and I'd never been injured, right? Knock on wood. I still do MMA and jiu-jitsu and stuff. So I'm setting myself up in a very dangerous sport. So knock on wood, I haven't had any major injuries. But this was the first injury I had that took me away from the field. It was after I'd already committed. I went to the ID camp, just a follow-up camp with that school I already committed to, just to show my face, be the recruit that's committed and be there. And I ended up breaking my foot at that camp, a camp that I didn't even have to be at. I was already committed to the school. I didn't have to go. And I showed up, got injured, and it actually took me out of competition, and it tested me. Now I broke one foot, but here's what my little plan was. That entire time that I was in crutches and in a boot, I was juggling a soccer ball with my foot that wasn't broken. That was what I did. So that was the first time for me where I was like, oh wait, this might actually be impossible to follow through. Like it might actually be impossible for me to not do this every single day. I'm literally hurt. I broke a foot and I play soccer, but I still found a way to do it. So that was the one that jumps into my mind as my hardest. I like to call them test days, right? The hardest one that came for me was that injury.
Gotcha. No, I love that example. I mean, very, very similar where I was a basketball player, broke my hand.
Yeah, broke. Yeah.
Next thing you know, I'm shooting with my left. I mean, I can shoot a jump shot with my left hand now because I said, I'm still practicing. Like I still I'm not stopping. And I think that's such a incredible idea and thought for listeners to
Mhm.
plant in your mind. Like there's an example of Joey breaking his foot. He's still able to juggle with his left hand. Same thing on my end, broke my right hand, still shooting the basketball with my left hand.
Mhm.
It didn't stop us where so many
Yeah.
times I'm sure you see it, I see it, roadblock, speed bump,
Mhm.
something happens and all of a sudden you're like, I just can't do it. Right. And
Mhm.
you're looking for excuse. But I would say your standard was, hey, I am committed to getting better. I'm committed to, and you weren't letting a broken foot stop you.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I think this big idea that I pulled from it, and it was a thought I was having the other day as well. I actually almost put it out in a tweet. I wasn't sure how to word it though, but it was this idea that a lot of times, in sports was the example I was going to use, but I see it in life as well. A lot of times when people have a physical injury, it's typically actually occurring in the mental first. It's typically a mental roadblock, not necessarily a physical limitation or a physical injury or a physical barrier.
Mhm.
And that's the idea that I get from that, because you see it in the weight room is one example I use all the time. Like I was a guy that it took me failing a 500-pound deadlift 3 times before I was able to pull it.
Right.
Like I literally had to fail it. And it was a mental roadblock. It had nothing to do with, I mean, sure, it had something to do with strength, but it
Yeah.
was more with the mental roadblock that I had there. Right. In preparation, I was ready to yank that thing off the floor. And if you looked at just pure numbers, it's like, yeah, you should absolutely crush that. I get on the platform and I fail it 3 times before I finally hit it. It was a mental
Right.
roadblock. It
Right.
wasn't physical.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's crazy. I've done some research on the physical side, used to own a gym, and
Mhm.
like some people are taught to, if there's a weight you can't squat, get under it and just stand with it for
Yeah.
a little bit. And you're wiring your mind neurologically to
Yep.
be able to deal with that weight. And it's
Mhm.
so true. So I'm right up the alley there on what you were thinking about and what you were going to tweet out. So go to college,
Mhm.
soccer, leave college. Did you find other things to get obsessive about? How were you leaning
Oh,
into that?
absolutely. Absolutely. And it happened that my sophomore year was 2020. So when
Okay.
COVID happened. So COVID goes down, right? And me, here I am. It's spring season. They're kind of shutting down spring practices because of COVID. There's nothing in the summer. I'm still training like every single day. There's a group of me and 3 other guys that were just doing it every single day. We're like, we're going to play. We're going to play. We're going to play. July comes. Season's canceled. You guys aren't going to play till next March.
Gotcha.
What do I do for the next 9 months? And right about that time is when I was entering my self-development journey that I
Okay.
think everybody that's kind of in this high performance space or business ownership kind of goes through at some point. And that was when I entered that journey for me. And I was really, really deep into Jocko Willink.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading his actual manual of discipline equals freedom. And in it, he says, everybody should train martial arts.
Okay.
I was like, okay, that's familiar to me. You know, I did a little bit of karate growing up and stuff. So it's kind of familiar to me. And I was like, I got nothing to do for 9 months. And I was like, I'm going to pick up jujitsu. Why not? Dove headfirst into it. Now, mind you, I still had soccer going on. So here I am in the midst of this COVID step away. I'm lifting weights almost every day or running. I'm training soccer every day. And I'm doing jujitsu or martial arts of some sort every single day. I'm running 3 days because I was just obsessed. And in the midst of all this is when I was actually connected with a guy that ended up being my very first business mentor. And
Okay.
so I started running a business for the first time in the following January. So it's very difficult to track, right? But it's like I'm lifting, I'm doing soccer, I'm doing martial arts, and I'm doing business. I was just obsessed. It was all stuff that I had an inkling for and stuff that I liked and saw potential in myself in. And that is really what sent me down the path of eventually getting into business and martial arts, which I still continue to this day. So to kind of squeeze it into a quick little bit, what ended up happening is I ended up going all in with the business. And when we got back from that semester, I ended up dropping out to go all in on the business.
Okay.
I started making a bit of money doing that, and I realized the opportunity that I had in online business was going to take me a lot further than my career that I had in mind, which was actually going to physical therapy school. But
Okay.
it was such a long game. I was like, I still got 5 more years of school. I can start doing this now, right? I can start helping people now, because what I was doing was online fitness coaching. I was like, I'm doing what I want to do for the most part,
Right.
right? It's not rehabilitative, but I'm still leaving a fingerprint on people's lives in a physical nature. And when I saw that opportunity, I ended up taking myself out of school and going into business full time.
So couple questions. One
Yeah.
is, are you going through the trial and error process as you find what you're interested in,
Oh yeah.
right? Like, what does that look like? Because I'm sure people are listening and they're like, okay, yeah, Joey found these things. He
Mhm.
had a inkling. He had some skills in him. He leaned in. I get it.
Mhm.
What was the trial and error process? Like,
Mhm.
describe that a little bit, because I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's so important for people to see that, because so many people see like, okay, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's crushing it in business, but I'm sure there's a lot of road bumps in the way.
Oh
So
yeah. Tons.
describe how, like, you get curious, trial and error. What's that look like
Mhm.
for you?
Mhm. So to make sure the timelines are matching up for everybody as well, like that season got canceled in July. I started doing martial arts on top of all of this. And right around December of that COVID year of 2020 is when I met Alex Hyden, who ended up being my very first business mentor. And I started a business with a teammate in college. We were like, we're going to do online fitness coaching.
Okay.
We're going to do this thing. And he was a business major. I was an exercise science major. He's like, dude, I'll do the business. I'll do the marketing, the sales, all that stuff. You do the training. Like, you coach these
Mhm.
people. I'm like, cool. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And we start this in January. 8 months go by. January to August. $0.
Okay.
Right. As most business stories go, right? You either lose a bunch of money or you make no money when you get started. And around that time is when we actually decided to go our separate ways. However, I stayed connected to Alex,
Okay.
who was that mentor. And he was there for me through that whole process of making $0. And he just kept pouring into me. He was like, do not quit, do not quit, do not quit. I was like, don't worry, dog. I ain't quitting. No, I ain't quitting, man. I'm obsessed, right? I'm obsessed because I saw potential in it. I knew
Mhm.
there's an opportunity. And in September is when I made my first dollar in online coaching.
Okay.
The end of September, that was the beginning of September. End of September, I hire another mentor. Now this is Jack Bly and Gabe Plugas. So I hired Jack and Gabe at the end of September of that 2021, and they were already killing it in online fitness coaching. So they're showing me the way how to do it myself. A few more months go by with them. In December, they actually asked me to come on and be a part of their team.
Okay.
Right. So I get in, I join their team. And then after a few months of that, they actually asked me to be a full on partner. And that was in February of 2022. So actually just over a year ago is when I came on as a full partner with their coaching business and actually have part ownership now. But I mean, the trial by fire that 8 months of making no money was unbelievable. Right. And that was a real test. And that was really when I started to come to this conclusion about myself and this hidden edge of like, I'm not going to quit. Like Alex was telling me, don't quit, don't quit. And I was like, bro, you don't have to worry about that. Like, I'm not gonna. Like, I found this thing and I see light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I'm not gonna quit. That is one thing I won't do is quit. Right? I'll suffer until I figure it out and make it happen. And luckily, I was able to find even more mentors and go join their mission as well. And obviously, walking through the light at the end of the tunnel now and growing and growing and growing together.
So, a couple things that's come up, just I've heard you talk
Mhm.
about, like, mentors, right? The
Oh yeah.
power of having mentors. So, one, how did you hook up with a mentor? Because people might be resistant or reluctant to reach out to people and say, "Hey, I see you're crushing it in this area.
Mhm.
I thought, like, I'd love to just pick your brain with these like, how did that
Mhm.
come about initially, and then the second time as well in your journey?"
Mhm. The initial one was very organic, right? Like I
Okay.
said, the original business I started was with a teammate in college, and he introduced me to Alex Hyden, who's the name I dropped earlier. That was a
Yep.
mentor. He went to high school with Alex.
Oh, okay.
So I got pretty lucky there. He was like, hey, I know this guy, Alex. I went to high school with him. He's crushing it online business, and he says he can help. I was like, all right, sweet. Got
Nice.
connected with him.
Mhm.
And how we were starting this business was we were doing it all through social media content.
Okay.
Right. So I was running a Twitter account, and on this is where I saw other guys that were doing online fitness coaching and just crushing it, which was Jack and Gabe, who
Okay.
ended up being those next mentors. And so for that entire 8 month process, what I was doing is like, I'm interacting with their content. You know, I'm liking their stuff. I'm commenting, I'm shooting them DMs back and forth. We're connecting. We almost developed somewhat of a friendship. And then finally Jack asked me, he's like, he just DM'd me. He's like, dude, what's your plans with your business? Like, where are you headed with this?
Right.
I told him, and he's like, let's talk about it. Like, let's see if I can help. And we ended up getting on a call and ended up just hiring him to actually mentor me and move that vision forward for me. So the way that I got my original mentor, Alex, I call that divine intervention.
Okay.
I call
Yeah.
that divine intervention.
Yeah.
How I ran into Jack and Gabe was a series of being persistent,
Mhm.
right? Of trying to literally force myself into a room that I wanted to be part of. And that's how it worked out ultimately. And that's what I've seen transpire since then as we've developed more and more mentors is really just forcing your way into a room and being persistent with it.
And I'll say, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
Initially, it was just showing love to their social
Yeah.
media, interacting
Yeah.
with their posts, being
Mhm.
consistent
Mhm.
and persistent over time,
Mhm.
shooting in them DMs. I'm sure like this was amazing post, like just sending them
Yes.
notes.
Exactly.
And then they came to you with like
Yeah.
what's going on with your business. You didn't even go the other way. Like that's such a powerful
Mhm.
message for
Mhm.
people to truly take in and then take action upon it, right?
Yep.
Like if you have somebody that you want to connect with, be, as Joey said, like persistent, consistent, interact, send them messages. People love to know that it's having an impact on others. And over time, how long did that kind of go where you started interacting with their content to where they said, well, what are you doing with your business? Let's connect.
That's probably a 6-month cycle, man.
Okay.
It took time, right?
Mm-hmm.
On a long scale, that's not much time at all, right? But in the
Right.
short term of I just started a business and we're making no money, 6 months seems like an entire decade, right? But the big thing and the big piece of advice that I'll give for people, and I've actually heard somebody else say this on stage at an event. His name's Brian Moncada. He was talking about how he lands like whale clients for his agency.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I was doing. I just didn't know I was doing it at the time. But he's
Gotcha.
like, you got to treat these people like humans,
Right.
right? Like a lot of people, they would see a guy like I had, which was Jack and Gabe, and put him on a pedestal and be like, holy crap, look at this guy and idolize it. And a lot of times when you do that, you end up treating him that way. And it's
Mm-hmm.
weird. It literally just comes across weird. Like if I was treating them like that and they were getting my DMs, they wouldn't have said, Joey, what's going on in your business? They would have been like, oh, thanks, bro, and kind of gone the other way. But if
Right.
you treat them like a genuine human and you reframe networking in your mind as creating a friendship and literally just genuinely being friends with the person and hoping for nothing in return, expecting nothing in return, then you're going to further the relationship. And when I took that frame of mind of like, hey, I'm just going to interact with Jack like he's a friend of mine and just literally nurture a friendship, it led to him being willing to help me. Right. But it's because I treat him like a human. I didn't put of idolize. I didn't look at it like that. And I don't think anybody should. Because a lot of times when you do that, and I know you probably have some experience with this, a lot of times when you do that and you put people on a pedestal and you end up meeting them and you realize they're just a human being, right? It drops those expectations for you. So that was something that I never really had that. Right. And I'm lucky that I didn't because it helped
Mm-hmm.
me.
Yeah. I mean, I would say similar. I had Evan Carmichael on my show twice,
Mhm.
and Evan's huge in personal
Yeah.
development. I don't know if you know Evan, but
Yeah.
and the second episode we did, I mean, he talked about even today he struggles with belief in himself.
Mm-hmm.
So you would think like this guy's crushing it, 3.5 whatever million YouTube subscribers he's at now, connected to Tony Robb. Like, no, he's still struggling. Like
Yeah.
we all struggle with
Human.
the same things. We're all human beings. And I think that's so important, especially Joey, in today's world where it's social media or it's a text message. We lose that human connection. So I would agree with you. It's even more important just to treat people as human beings. Don't expect anything in return. Friendship and just building relationships, I think, is a lost art. I'm sure you probably feel the same way.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I know you know this too because you're just in the game of content and social media and everything. And what a lot of people are craving today is that authentic relationship,
Mhm.
right? They don't really like the direct response world of straight to the point, sell, pitch, pitch, pitch anymore. It's a changed game. The personal brand of who is Jeff as a human being is going to connect you to your audience more than any ad copy would or any direct
Right.
sales letter would, because people are just craving that authenticity. So if you can get in front of a camera and be yourself, and then you can go and connect with these individuals and literally expect nothing. And that's the key, is you have to genuinely expect nothing out of it. A lot of people try to network and all of a sudden they're asking for a favor. If you literally genuinely expect nothing in return and you're just trying to build friendships and stuff, you're going to build extremely powerful relationships. And I have so many examples of this in my own life that we could probably book off a whole other podcast to talk about. But you have to genuinely expect nothing when you go to make these networking relationships. And when you're talking through content, you have to genuinely be yourself and be authentic. And that's what people crave.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've heard that from people that have commented or
Mm-hmm.
liked or what I do from a social.
Yeah.
You need to be authentic
Yeah.
because people's BS meter is so high.
So high.
And
So
they can see right through it. They're like, this guy is absolutely full of it. Like it just doesn't look, and it doesn't look congruent to who they are as a human being. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I had a guy who's a TEDx speaker, won multiple speaker awards, and he's like, dude, there's a lightness in your eyes. Like you've leaned into where you need to be. So people can tell subconsciously through your body language. So, love the authenticity and being yourself and building relationships. Joey, where can I've loved the discussion, loved how you've leaned into being obsessive. Where can people look you up? Where can people find you?
Yeah, the easiest place to find me is probably Twitter or Instagram, either of those. And I made it super, super easy. The handle is just first name, last name. So if you're watching the video version, it's the Joey Yochheim that you see in front of you. If you're listening on audio, it's JoeyYochheim on both platforms. So Twitter or Instagram, DMs are open anytime. I'd love to have conversations. I love connecting in there.
Awesome. Joey, thanks so much for being on the show.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me, Jeff.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Create a legendary day. Rise, fight, love, repeat. Get after it. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to your Hidden Edge podcast. You are now part of the movement, part of a tribe who's on a mission to uncover their hidden edge. We're stronger together. So please share this. Show up with one person in your network that you want to help. Together, we can empower others, and connected, we can make a difference.